Hi, my name is MacDonald. I'm a software engineer by day and a woodworker by night. My wife and I bought this house in 2014. It was kind of a disaster. I mean, it's an old house built in 1890. Nothing was flat or straight. Wood paneling on the walls, ceilings that bowed, a scary basement. You'd put a marble on the floor and it would quickly roll to another part of the house. And we lived in it for a good 6 years before we started thinking about renovating it. So that allowed us to kind of understand the space and what we wanted to do with it rather than just diving in and starting to renovate. Also, we couldn't afford to just renovate it right after we bought it. So we had no concept about the idea of this design-build combination. All we knew is that at some point in the future, we wanted to renovate. What was important to me was the attention to detail and the quality of the work. For example, it was important that every floor be completely flat and that all the angles that are supposed to be right angles be right angles. And I wasn't sure this was going to be possible in a house like this, where everything was sort of sinking and you could see the bows in the ceiling. And there were architects that we met with who had kind of these wild ideas that just didn't fit. And it seemed like they weren't really listening. They sort of had their idea. And honestly, that just didn't work very well. We met with some whose budget was extraordinarily high. There's one right nearby, and we realized that wasn't right. Finally, I stumbled on NEDC. I saw that it was, architecture and contracting. It was design build together. And that just seemed really appealing from a sort of we take care of everything standpoint. And then once we had the first meeting with NEDC, with David, we were pretty much hooked. We sat at the kitchen table, the old kitchen table over there, and he mostly just asked us a lot of questions, which was kind of nice. He asked us a lot of questions about what we were looking for, what we wanted to do. He was very exploratory about the space. At one point, we walked through the whole existing house. He saw that there was an attic. We had gone into the attic like twice. It was very hard to get up into. And he's like, well, can I go up in there and see? And there was no real way to get up there. So we kind of like dragged some furniture under this little hole in the ceiling, and he, clambers up there and stomping around looking at the attic. And then he kind of plopped back down onto the second floor, and it was really cool. And so he seemed really interested in the house, in every inch of it, and what we wanted to do. So that was the start of the process. What again we liked was he talked about how we would start by working with the designers, and all of the design would be settled up front before any construction began. And that was really exciting. He said we would even be picking out the fixtures, the tiles, the finishes before any construction was done to minimize the surprises. In addition, what I loved was he said that we would work with the designers and they would create a set of alternatives, starting with a couple, high-level concepts, which I remember there was design A, B, and C. We would talk about what we liked about each one and what we didn't like and which ones were non-starters. And then you just keep refining it from there. So it was very iterative. I mean, they were just balancing different things. Like on the second floor, there were choices between, do we try to squeeze another bedroom in there or a home office? Do we try to get 2 bathrooms up there, one off of our suite and one for our son, or is there not enough space for that? Down here, how do we separate and distinguish these rooms? That was one thing that was really important. I didn't want some big open floor plan. This is not a big house, and so we didn't want it to just be one big room. We also didn't want to feel like when you walked through the door that you were walking straight into the living room. And so they just had great ideas for how to accomplish those goals. The real aha moment came when they presented us this option. I remember it was the last option because I think they knew it was the best, where they managed to lay out the second floor in such a way that we had 2 full bathrooms and a home office in addition to our bedroom and our son's bedroom and a landing and a linen closet. And it was like everything came together, and we just looked at this floor plan that they presented and we were stunned. That was it. This was the option. It was really, really impressive that they put that together. I would never, having gone through this, jump into a build with anything but a complete understanding of how everything was going to be laid out and done, which I think is the thing that was really different with NEDC. We've watched friends do renovations, and there are always these major surprises that seem to come from the lack of complete planning about how the space is going to look. And that really seemed like a big difference. As I said before, we were planning everything down to the inch, and they told us that was part of the process. You know, picking out every appliance, picking out the windows, and doing all that before any construction was done, so that you knew where every single thing was going to be. And also inspecting the existing house. So before the demolition began, you know, they pulled up some floorboards, they explored some walls, went into the attic, went into the basement, looked at everything structurally. That minimized the surprises as well. The careful design up front led to really a lack of problems and surprises down the line. It was fun on a bunch of levels working with NEDC. Number one, I really enjoyed coming over here almost every day and seeing the progress that they were making once we were in the construction phase. And their lead carpenter was here, and he and I would chat, and that was just great. Two, when we were doing the designing, there were some things we knew we wanted that I could build into the design. So the best example is in the dining room, there's a carve-out that they carefully allocated for some floating built-in bookshelves, and we took great care to make sure that those bookshelves were just the right depth, and the coat closet that it backs into had enough room for the coats. So while NEDC was building, I was still able to be down in the basement with my table saw building those built-in bookshelves. Another great example where we worked together, and this was another real very exciting moment in the process, was when the designers produced these photorealistic renderings of our rooms. They showed the kitchen and the living room and the dining room and what it was going to look like when the work was done. And they took the time to take some of the furniture that I had built and measure it and get it exactly right and put it into the photorealistic rendering. So we were looking at this picture of our future house with this furniture in it that I had made, and it looked gorgeous in the new setting, and that was just really cool. I would recommend NEDC, and I do, and I have recommended. The process was wonderful. The price was reasonable. We are 100% happy with the result, and we have been 6 years on, and the designers, the builders, project manager, everyone was really great. And there were almost no surprises. So I would recommend NEDC unconditionally. When you look around at the results, I mean, the quality is very high. The attention to detail was clearly there. As a woodworker, I really appreciated, and again, the conversations that I had with the lead carpenter on the project were super fun. There was a very high attention to detail in terms of all the finishes and the craftsmanship. Sometimes my wife and I will ask each other, like, hey, we look around, is there anything we would have changed or done differently? And we just don't think of anything. We really don't. I mean, and I think that's pretty rare. It has held up extraordinarily well, and we're completely happy with all how it went.